My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 359, also known as the very first episode of 2026. Woo, the crowd went wild. Here is what's coming up. I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean I need to choose a course that might determine the next 10 years of my life? Like, just yesterday, I was in class asking for permission to go to the toilet. A bell controlled my life. Now, I'm supposed to choose something to do with my life for the next 5 years. But I would want to speak to how parents' shame kind of show up in families. They want you to behave in a certain way, not because they even care, but because of how they are perceived within the society that they are in, how their friends perceive them. Like, oh my God, my daughter could never. I mean, first year I go to class, whatever. So something happens. One of my sister leaves the country, and I am excited she has left the country because she was breathing down my neck when she was in the country. She was like, why are you not going to church? When I was in Nairobi, why are you not going to church? That is part one of Hekaya's story. We're going to be jumping into it a little later in this episode. But man, I'm in such good spirits. And to be honest, I feel like I have been in the healthiest space mentally from maybe towards the end of November, where I made a decision I'd been postponing, made the decision, and I just have felt ease and relief. And I'm just hoping that just by me sharing this, like I can transfer it to you. Man. I have had an incredible Christmas break. I went to Joburg and had Christmas for the first time in Joburg. I've been there before, but not for Christmas, with a friend who I met in a bathroom in New York. Story for another day. And I came back for New Year's, which I spent with my bestie. We went for an incredible concert. And then yesterday I hosted my favorite girlfriends at my house. We do this annually. We have food, convo, karaoke, and we did a fire ceremony where we just, released what we don't want to carry with us from 2025. And we also set clear intentions of what we want to achieve in 2026. Guys, I'm really actually having the friendship I've always wanted. And in my dating life, I'm experiencing ease and joy that I've not experienced actually ever. You can hear from my giggles. Oh my goodness. There's a lot to unpack there, but I'm grateful. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is I'm grateful for my life, for the friendships around me, for, the incredible people I'm getting to know. You know what? Let's move into the story. So this is part one of Hekaya's story. Okay. And we're opening up the year with her. She's a creative, a storyteller, and you can hear from when she speaks, she's done a lot of work in like understanding herself and even giving grace to others. So over the next 2 episodes, she's going to take us through sibling relationships. She talks a lot about family systems in part 1, and I really think we could all learn a lot from it. Part 2 will be out next week, but let's jump into part 1. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa. My name is Hekaya, and this is an alias I use online because I love to preserve my privacy, but also share authentically through storytelling. And I am a creative podcaster as well. So who is Hekaya? Hekaya is a girl who hails from the mountain, Mojema. Mojema, being more specific, is Nyeri County. That is where I was born and raised. I come from a family of 4. I am the 4th born.
And something my mom kept on insisting on is you're the fourth born, not the last born, because she was paranoid that if she called me a last born, I would turn to be a brat. So I learned to just call myself the fourth born. And recently I joked about, Mom, I'm the fourth born. There might be another child. And she was like, no, you're the last born. Growing up as a last born is a big blessing. I mean, I would want to be a last born over and over in every lifetime. However, you kind of learn how to chart your own path, because sometimes you can get lost in the path of your older siblings, and you learn to stand up for yourself and you learn to put your foot on the ground and say what you want as a last born. However, the family is also girls only. So fourth born in a family of only girls. There is also my mom and there is also my dad. One of the things my parents, I always say, did amazingly was parent us. I remember my dad and my mom emphasizing on a culture of reading. And I think that is why I love to tell stories, because I read so many when I was younger. We had a culture of reading. Studying was very important. Going to school from a very young age. I didn't start going to school the same schools my sisters were in, because, I mean, I was younger. I went to school younger than I was supposed to, because, I mean, career and whatever, well, for my parents. I remember school days for me were very, very interesting, because I was very outspoken, very bold. I mostly found myself taking the lead, whether it comes to class, answering questions, whether it comes to my friendships, etc. I remember taking the lead from a very young age. When I got to maybe class 2, class 3, because of 1, 2, 3 reasons, I was moved to a public school, which I did not like at all. Having come from a private school and all these nice things, you go to a public school and it's chaotic. First, I got into a class of over 40 students, and previously, like in class 2, I was in a class that had like 15 students. You could quickly scan through the room and name everybody. Now here I am in class 3 and students are like 40, 50, and it's noisy, it's huge. I mean, the hygiene is not as good. Some students have repeated so many times, like there are these big students in your class. I was the new girl, so you kind of like get the new girl title and a lot of teasing from the rest. So yeah, that was not very exciting. But quickly, I think because of being very bold and outgoing, I quickly got my place. By the time I was getting to class 4, I had gotten comfortable in this new school. I'd gotten comfortable to the point of calling out bullies who would bully other children. And I have a scar on my knee to show what you get when you call out a bully. You know that thing, tutafunga na wewe, because you called me out. That means the bully was not happy being called out in front of younger people. So they kind of like promise you that during closing, they are revenging. Yes. And the revenge, I fell down, got a huge scar on my knee. But that did not stop me from being very fisty and fierce and bold and outgoing, which I continued all the way to finishing my primary school studies. I think the other thing that really shaped my boldness, well, coming from a household, I think, for instance, that story of the bully, I think 2 things were at play here. First of all, I was younger than him. And second of all, I was a girl. So it's like, you cannot be younger than me and be a girl and tell me that I'm doing the wrong thing. So for me, I couldn't understand a lot of, I remember growing up, I couldn't fathom why being a girl was something that was seen as lesser than. Because again, remember, I come from a family of all girls. My dad would encourage us a lot to just get into sports and things that are termed as masculine. What shaped my boldness was coming from the family that I came from. Seeing a lot of women, even my mom's friends, being very bold, being very outgoing. But also in school, I was a very smart kid. When people look up to you to like show them maths, sums, and whatever, it kind of gives you a certain privilege, an intelligence privilege, I would say, of sorts. So kind of like adds to the confidence that you already have. So that was me. I remember I had brief instances in primary school where I would get bullied because I'm tall. I'm a tall person because I came from a very tall family, and it was like whatever. Yeah, so onwards we went to high school, and high school was new because I mean now we just have girls, you're a teenager, all these teenage things are happening, your body is changing, but it was pretty much a chill experience for me in high school. But in high school, something that I remember is I became even bolder because one thing that I remember I started in high school was a segment called Talent on Paper. I mean, again, creativity following me, storytelling. So you might wonder what Talent on Paper was. This was me in Form 2. Form 2 was a crazy year. I don't know. I feel like everyone's Form 2 was like, I don't know what happens at Form 2. So in Form 2, I kind of had a lot of time. Like, I mean, you're not in Form 4, you're not reading for your major exams and whatever. So there was a lot of time. So Talent on Paper was this thing I came up with where we had a notice board in our class. I was in 2P. We had a notice board at the edge of the blackboard. There was a notice board. So I started writing articles, and I wrote my first article and I posted it. It was on a Friday night because I mean, I was like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, no teachers in class. So I can do whatever I want and then plaque it out on Monday morning. So I wrote an article, I posted it on the notice board, and people would go over lunch hour and read and see, oh, what did she write on Sunday after service? What did she write, etc. And then I was like, oh, so people are interested in that. So I recruited the people who were sitting behind me, and I was like, right, next weekend. And so it became Talent on Paper. So people would draw and would post on the notice board. Others would write poems, others would write stories. It was just Talent on Paper, whatever talent you can, coloring, whatever you can write. And then it became this community thing where people would come and comment. If it was a poem, they would leave comments on their poem, the audience. Yeah, that was very interesting. And then that same year we celebrated Halloween. We had no idea what that was, but it was a crazy experience. It was also a very creative experience. We explored makeup. We had very limited resources. We explored makeup, Halloween, and whatever. So yeah, that was basically how my high school went. It was a lot of fun, a lot of experiments, and I think that is where I remember my creativity now getting nurtured. Because if I can think back to storytelling and presenting my stories outside of, like, I feel like primary school was more of like the only place you could write a story was your composition or your insha. I did not exploit outside of the normal studies. But now in high school, I had an opportunity hosting events like Talent Day, Cultural Day. Yeah, that was very interesting. So that was high school. It was pretty chilled. Not much happened. Then we get to now leaving high school. Now you're navigating life after high school. Like, what do you want to do? It's very interesting. The way I remember it, it was like, I was shocked. I was like, what do you mean I need to choose a course that might determine the next 10 years of my life? Like, just yesterday, I was in class asking for permission to go to the toilet from a teacher. A bell controlled my life. Now, I'm supposed to choose something to do with my life for the next 5 years, something to do in university. It was crazy. But again, I think when I was in high school, there was career days. it was a very good high school where we had career days. Alumni would come and like would tell us like, oh, this is what I do. I'm a lawyer. This one is a doctor. What? And it's in one of those career days where I met Washuka. Washuka was a lawyer who wanted to now master with international relations. And international relations caught my eye because my entire life, I don't remember dreaming of being a doctor or whatever. And at that point, I was like, this is it, international relations. I think the aspect of building relationships and like it having an aspect of communication really spoke to me. So for the whole of high school, I was like, yeah, when I finish, I'll do international relations. And then I finish high school. I'm very sure of what I want to do, the course I want to do. My family is very open. I think when you're the last born, your parents have had a chance to fuck up with the older ones, to force them to do a course and then they didn't like it, blah, blah, blah. So by the time they're getting to you, it's like, okay, what does she want to do? They're like, we have seen what we have done with the rest, forcing somebody to do XYZ did not work out, doing this and that did not work out. So they're very careful with like the direction you're taking, and they're very thoughtful about listening to what you have. So I didn't really have a lot of problem with, oh, do this, do that. There were suggestions. I do heavier courses, but I was like, I am so fixated on doing something with communication, either international relations. I was not so much into journalism. I was not that much into journalism, but I just wanted to do something with communication. So when I was browsing, I just saw the course I took in in campus. It was just their corporate communication and management. And I was like, that sounds good. The relationship I had because it has come to change. It has come to change. I will speak the before and the after. Before aromat, after aromat. Anyway, the relationship I had with my siblings, I think personally, I felt very left out in my family because there was a very specific direction my family was taking. For instance, when it came to Christianity, I always felt like, how come I'm not so into this Christianity? Like my mom is into it. I'm seeing my siblings into it. When it came to experimenting, I'm very experimental with things. Like I think it's because being a creative, you really like just jump into things and see, because I think life is all about the chances you take. So I didn't see that a lot in my family, and it kind of like made me feel very lonely. So my eldest sibling obviously is like the deputy parent. So the relationship there is like it's mirroring the relationship like you have with your parents. Same with my the second born. Now with the third born, there was space to engage, space to be myself, but still I felt if I'm too much of myself, I might get judged, I might get labeled. So it was not that close. We just played together, we related together, but it was not like I'm going to stay up to 12 a.m. talking about my deepest thoughts or my deepest feelings. So it was a functional relationship that went on well, but not like besties. Now that has come to change as we have adulted. And I think doing the inner work, because I've watched my siblings, all of them in their own capacities, do their inner work, kind of like understand themselves much deeper. And I think that creates space for now, not only being siblings, but being friends. So now I feel very seen, very understood. But it's complex and simple, I would say at the same time. Some complexities are there because, like still people hold very strong opinions about certain things. And you're like, oh, maybe not. Yeah. So I think now it has become better. We are more of friends than we were when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, it's like I'm the last born. This is the child. We are making decisions for her. We are not. I think that is something that I really hated about being the last born, that decisions were made it's like I'm not in the room. It's like, hello? I'm still here, guys. I'm hearing what you're saying. Decisions are being made for me. She's gonna do this. She's gonna go. Let her, like I remember finishing a form 4. It's crazy because everyone came to pick me up from school. Perks of being a last born. It was like, oh my god, it's like visiting day. I'm seeing my siblings, my nephew, my everybody, my mom, everyone is there picking me up from school, and it's like, oh my god, guys. But I remember like now going home and my mom telling me, oh, by the way, your elder sister needs to take a certain crash course for the next 6 weeks. And unfortunately, her house help is leaving. So you are to take on the role of babysitting for the next 6 weeks to my nephew. So you see, in such an instance, I'm not being requested. I'm not being asked. Oh, after spending 1 month reading for exams, would you want to rest or not? Would you want to sleep? It's literally, I got home after now the whole excitement of, oh, you're finished, prayer and whatever. We're so happy. I'm being told in 3 days' time, pack your things, move into your sister's house, and you're going to be responsible for her 2-year-old son for the next 6 weeks because she needs to take this course. And the course was starting like 8 a.m. because it was like a crash course. It was very intense. It was starting at 8 a.m. 5. It's like an 8 to 5, whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, and I didn't feel like there was an opportunity to say no. Like when my parents would demand of things. So I I move into my sister's house for 6 weeks, and I think I have a terrible time because this 2-year-old nephew of mine, who I dearly, dearly love, was the fussiest child. And this is, remember, I am a last born. I've not experienced children. The only children, most of the time in school, I was like the youngest in the class, most of the time. So this is the first time I'm experiencing babysitting. And I go, hey, it was not a pleasing experience. I remember even calling my mom 3 weeks into it and telling her, I want to come home. And my mom calls my sister, Connie, what's happening? Why is she saying she wants to come home? Nini. Because I remember waking up, I would wake up at around 7 a.m. and the child would wake up at around 8 and they would cry for 1 hour because mom or dad is not present. It's 1 hour of just, oh my God, what do I do? So I would try to console them, like, nataka mom, and they're just like, nataka mom, mama ko wapi. Where is my mother? They were very attached to the mom. Where is my mother? And so I had to sit sometimes in silence and just stare at the child and wait for them to cry until they are tired, and then I'll get to feeding them, changing them, and I have said this, I did not like the experience. I could not wait for those 6 weeks to end. And when they ended, I went home and I told my mom, I will never, ever again do that. Do not volunteer me for labor. Please, especially if it's taking care of kids. It was not an experience. And I love this child dearly. But it was a lot. Feeding the child, it's that child who is fussy, does not like feeding, just wants to be with mommy all the time. I am 17 years old. I have just finished Form 4. I'm realizing, because now I see because it was not like my siblings would still come visit here and there. Everybody else was busy. I was the only one. I mean, after Form 4, you have nothing to do. So everyone, like my siblings were either in uni, working. Now my sister is doing this course. So when my other sister now, like the one I follow, would come like over the weekends, I would see how she would relate with this child. This child would be so happy to see my other sister. And I would like, in my head, I would be like, is it me? Am I the problem? Is it the child? There was a clear strain between me and my nephew. it was very clear that we are not bonding like the way he's bonding with my other sister. So yeah, this was my first time to experience children, to be very honest. And I would get very snappy. I would get irritated so fast. I would tire. My mind would just tire from the noise, from the cleaning, from the whatever. And children use 17 cups in a day. They drink a lot of water, they drink milk, they drink porridge. There is a lot of carbs involved. So yeah, that was like my first time of actually now dealing with children. So fortunately enough, as I had said, my parents were not very keen. I mean, my dad was hell-bent on me doing a heavier course. But in hindsight, I see sometimes parents look at you as an extension of themselves. And his suggestion of me doing a heavier course, which was engineering, was not because I could have been really a great engineer. It was because it was a big course. And it sounded good when it rolled out of his mouth. My daughter is in this and this university doing engineering, because I'm an extension. To him, I'm an extension of himself, and if not himself, his ego. It really boosts his ego to say that. So he was hell-bent on me doing engineering. And then I was like, Dad, look at my physics. I have struggled through physics. And I mean, part of electrical engineering, because that's what he was saying, is a lot of physics. So he says, oh, don't do then, if you're struggling with physics, then because you're good in biology, then do veterinary science. And in my head, I'm thinking, remember, I'm from Murema. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, so they're going to call me at 3 a.m. to get my hands inside a cow and pull a calf because I'm a veterinary science. Because that is... because this is... You can only dream as big as your exposure. So this is what I've been exposed to. The vet within our community is called at 3 a.m. when the cow is giving birth. And the calf is not coming out to dip his hands inside the cow and pull the calf. Now that I've been exposed to more and I've traveled and I've seen, I'm like, maybe he had a good idea, because now I could just have like a daycare for dogs in Karen, daycare for cats somewhere, and I'm a vet, added advantage, when people are traveling for work for 3 days, they leave their dogs with me, and I have a cat. I would not want to possess that cat because it comes in to eat and sleep and then disappears for a day. But I love cats and I love dogs. I love animals. But now I settle on communication. It sounded so good, the course that I saw, corporate communication, and I get into uni, and now getting into uni. But I as a teenager, I did not spend a lot of time at home. I did not spend a lot of time in Yuri. I would spend a lot of time in Nairobi. And this was by design because my siblings were in Nairobi. And now again, to go back to the relationship I had with my siblings, it's as it progresses, like as a child, as as it progresses, it changes like everything else. So as a teenager, a lot of the relationship I had with my sibling was them being tutors to me. So the reason I would come to Nairobi a lot to be tutored by them. Oh, she has what in maths? She's failing in maths, And I remember one of my sister taught me vectors, and I was so good at vectors. I loved that. I loved being tutored by my siblings, because the other option would have been my dad, which was not that great. Yeah, so that is another thing. Lucky being a last born, because my older siblings were taught and tutored by my dad, and it was not going very well. So now, because my siblings are older than me, they get to tutor me, which was softer. But I don't know if anyone has been taught maths by their dad, and you are at the kitchen table and you cannot say what 7 times 3 is. And it's hell breaks loose anyway. So I I came to Nairobi earlier on as a teenager, and then before even going to campus, I do like these courses. I do language. I do a language course, and now that exposes me to a lot of creative. So I go to study French at Alliance. And anyone who knows Alliance, it's a cultural center that has a lot of culture embedded into it and art. I remember like finding out that's where like Sauti Soul started their thing and so many other artists. So there was a lot of culture in terms of like there's drama, there's social things, you're doing open mic, poetry, etc. So I encounter this and it continues like to further my creative agenda and creative pursuit. I get into all these things because I mean class is 1 hour 30 minutes. What do I do with the rest of my day? So I learn French. I get into a lot of cultural thing. I get into like my poetry is sharpened. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. And I see how it has shaped even what now I currently do, my creative work. So then eventually I move. Now it's time for me to go to uni. It's September. September is uni season. So I go to uni. I had 2 agendas when I went to uni. Agenda number 1, very important, secure the degree. You know, like Kitambo, I used to be so ashamed to say that I am a smart kid. But nowadays I'm like, I am. Because it felt like, oh, are you blagging? You know, you should not say these things out loud. But so I was a smart kid. And I think for me, when I get into studying, it's like, yeah, we are here to secure the degree. And agenda number 2 was have fun. Because now it's like, oh my God, I'm away from my parents. I'm away from all these restrictions. Because again, I come from a very Christian restrictive background. And you know, things should be done in a certain way, and we don't. Again, I would. Now I'm going out of the agenda. But I would want to speak to how parents' shame kind of show up in families. Like they want you to behave in a certain way, not because they even care, but because of how they are perceived within the society that they are in, how their friends perceive them. Like, oh my God, my daughter could never. You're bringing shame upon us. So I think shame is something that really affects us as a family. And also I've talked to, and I think every family that has like this Christian values, shame is a very sensitive topic. It's like we do things in a certain way so that all these other our friends, all this the society can see us in a certain way. It's a very hypocritical way of living. And when I was starting, I said I'd love to be very authentic. And even me, even me using an alias is just me trying to, I can see how that circles back to the shame I've collected from my family. Because why is it so wrong for me to say my name and talk about what I'm going to talk about or tell my story? So it's just me hiding under this name, because what if my cousin stumbles upon this and they share it to the family group or whatever? Like, there is so much shame. And I think that is something I should be telling my therapist. Why am I saying it here? Yeah, so I see how as well I carry this same shame and the fear of being perceived that I'm talking about with my family. Their call is coming from inside the house. Yeah. So now you see, now I'm in uni and those are my 2 goals. Secure the degree, come rain, come sunshine. Number 2, have fun. And for me at that time, I'm still a teenager. I don't know what fun looks like for me. I have to dip my feet into different things to be able to tell, oh, this is fun for me, this is not fun for me. I mean, first year I go to class, whatever. So something happens. One of my sister leaves the country and I am excited she has left the country because she was breathing down my neck when she was in the country. Now, breathing down my neck looks like she was like, why are you not going to church? When I was in Nairobi, why are you not going to church? And I start going to church for, I think I emotionally and mentally detached from the church from the age of 15, because even when I was in high school, I used to go to church, sing. I loved hymn books. I love hymn songs, and I would love to like praise and worship. But after that, I would sleep through the service. I would sleep so hard that service would be done. People would leave the hall. And now when people were coming for lunch, that's when they would wake me up. Like, service ilish. Service ilisha amka. So I kind of like detached from the church from 15, but I still went to church when I was with my family, because again, toka kwa nyumba yangu. Like, why are you not going to church? This is hello. So my sister leaving was like, yes, I was so happy for her for leaving. But also, I was happy for me that now I will not have this sibling who is breathing down my neck. One of the instances of her breathing down my neck was during, you remember that, like, orientation week of campus. Oh, even before campus. This is now to speak to, again, the relationship I had with my siblings. So even before campus, I remember now I'm going to Alliance and I change up my time. I was going in the morning at around 11, maybe to 12:30, and then I would be home at around 3. But this time in Alliance, you see, again, it allows me to explore the city. I used to do all sorts of things, go to the museum. I was a tourist of Nairobi, go to the museum and whatever. Then I change up the hours and I start doing the evening hours. And one of my siblings is a bit not comfortable with that overprotectiveness. And I remember one time I had to pick up something from a neighbor, and this same sibling is like, I go to my neighbor's place to pick up whatever I need to pick up. It's around 8 p.m. because now my class ends at around 6:30ish. Javing all the way, like Nairobi traffic, what. So by the time I'd been told in the morning to pick up that whatever from my neighbor, but it's not like a close neighbor, it's like a few blocks away. So I get to my neighbors and their brother, who had also finished Form 4, was there. And I'm like, oh yeah, and we are friends. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. It's 8 and I get in and they're like, oh, I have to serve you something, like the Kenyanness of serving tea or whatever. So you sit down, it's only polite. So you sit down, you take whatever needs to be taken, etc. So I get home a bit late, maybe 30 minutes late. And one of my siblings is like, where were you? You were just supposed to go pick up what you needed to pick up and then come home. You should learn. I remember her saying, you should learn not to overstay your welcome. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was just there for like 30 minutes. So then that shapes how now our siblinghood becomes, because now I see I cannot be safe with these people. I cannot be myself around them, because it's going to be judged, it's going to be corrected over and over. So again, it continues to shape the loneliness I was feeling throughout all this time of being in siblinghood with them. So anyway, now week of uni. What happens in the week of uni? First of all, no one takes me to uni. I think it's because, actually I get lost. Get like, oh, you're going to this uni, notification, like you're going to this uni, etc. So there was a confusion. Am I going to the main uni or am I going to the current campus uni? And now I had to go and like confirm from the uni, like, is this course being done in the main uni or like the current uni? This is JKUAT. So I go to the main campus in Juja and I get lost the first day. It's like I'm just told, go and find out. And I go and now that I think about it, getting lost in Juja is so hilarious because it's so small. I get lost anyway. I go and I confirm and they're like, yeah, it's being done here. We are good. I'm like, cool. So I go back, I report, we are doing it. Because now I needed to know so that I'm planning. If I'm moving out, like, do I move out to this side or to Juja's side? So then it's registration week. Nobody takes me. I go there and I make all those lines by myself. I think now this is now the thing about being a last born. Your parents are so tired. They have done it for the first born. I remember when they were doing it for the second born, we woke up at 3 a.m. Everyone, it was a whole party. It was a whole party, like, oh, she's going to uni. We have everybody's making lines. Even my dad is the one who took my firstborn. Secondborn was taken by the entire family, even like other members of the family. I mean, outside the family, the nuclear, they were there. Like, tulikuwa tumejaa kwa gari. Anyway, so me, I just go alone. And I make all those lines by myself. I upload what needs to be uploaded. There was a lot of, excuse me, what do I need to do here? What do I need to do here? What do I need to do here? And contrary to what people say about lastborns, people say they are spoiled and whatever. I feel like I really step up. I really do step up by myself. So anyway, I go the week, I register all by myself, and now campus starts. The week of orientation, I remember one of my siblings, the same one who we had a problem with, calling me and asking me, like on a Wednesday, calls me and asks me, where are you right now? And I'm like, I'm in the house. And she says, why are you not going for orientation? And I'm like, because it's orientation. Like, who goes for orientation? Like, hello. And she's like, I'm telling you this right now. When I call you back, I want to hear you in JQuat and you're sat and you're listening to what they're saying on orientation. I think she had a fear of me turning out. You see, the same fear my mom had, which I see the same fear my mom had of me being a lastborn and turning out to be a brat, which clearly I see where my mom's paranoia stems from, because it stems from their lastborn and how she was babied a lot, and well, she struggles to integrate into society even at an older age because of being soothed a lot. So I also see like the same dynamic with this particular sister of mine who's like the second born. I saw that dynamic of her trying to cover every loophole, like you need to go to church, because in her head she thinks the church is the best place for me to learn values and whatever's. You need to go for orientation. What are you doing? Why are you not going for orientation? So again, this fathers our relationship. It gives it a strain, because now it's not a sibling dynamic. It's more of a tough parent with a child kind of dynamic. Anyway, we get to uni, and as I said, my goals were too. So I go to my classes. That's a thing. That's a fact. I usually used to go to my classes. I am more of a in-person learner than a reading the notes learner. I love to listen to the person speaking, absorb it. And then fun. So in uni, I'm trying to get my hands on everything that I can get on. If it's clubbing, I'm going out. If it's house parties, I'm going to house parties. I get into hiking or that, it's something I still do to date. So that was great. I got into hiking, I got into club, and a lot of the fun in uni, it's clubbing, right? So I got into all those things, and I remember clearly I met, crazy story, side quest. There was this babe who we were friends with when we were in primary school in class 5. Then she moved schools. She transferred schools. And in class 6, she transferred. We had a very solid bond. And even throughout high school, because again, in high school, I said I was dipping my feet into everything, music festivals, etc. So when I would go for music festivals, I would go to their school and would spend so much time together. Funny thing, I get into uni. That week in uni, we reconnect. It's that friend you're on and off. Not because of you've broken up or anything. It's just like life is happening. she failed her exams, the parent took her phone, she now doesn't have a phone. You see all those dynamics of being a teenager in school, and now you cannot connect to this person because of distance. But now here we are, third week of uni, I see her, she sees me, and you're like, girl, won't God do it? You know, so now we become very close. I mean, it's not even becoming very close, like we continue from where we stopped. So she becomes like my right hand person. She becomes like my sister. Now, remember, now I don't feel safe with my sisters. I don't feel safe to be truly myself. I don't feel safe to say like I'm going clubbing tonight, or I used to feel so lonely when I would hear other girls saying, "Oh, you see, my sisters, when I turned 18, they took me to the club, and they introduced me to these drinks, and they told me this is the best, and they told me to drink water in between so that I'm not too wasted. And oh, I told my sister I was going for a sleepover to my guy's place, and she packed my bag with essentials." I used to be like, I wish I had that with my sisters. Like, why are my sisters not like this? Right? So now this best friend of mine, she becomes my sister. Right? And I'm like, would the Lord do it? Hallelujah. That is first semester in uni. So we are going out with her. Like I can't go out without her. Because again, safety. I mean, we live in Kenya, femicide cases. It's just sad. So she's my safe person. I am her safe person. Like tuko hivi. Tuko hivi is me and anyway. Me and my two fingers crossing like that. Anyway, I remember even people just being like, oh, a lot of first year is like dating and whatever. And I was like, dating is going to restrict me. I'm saying I want to have fun. Dating is going to restrict me from this having fun. Anyway, we have very responsible fun, to be very honest. Nothing crazy happens. It's just the usual, going to the club, spending a lot of time there, coming back in the morning. Now she lives in the hostels. I'm living with my sister, so I don't go home. I go to the hostels with her after the club, and then after sleeping through the hangovers, and then I go home. I proceed home. So now this puts a strain between me and my sibling. Now, the one who was like, you should go to church, nini, nini, the second one has left. Now you see why I'm happy she has left. Because now I'm like, hey, at least the tough one has left. Now I'm left with the sister that I follow, who is a bit lenient, but also still a bit trying to be like, okay, you cannot sleep outside without telling me where you are, etc., which puts a strain again on our relationship. But that's how I go through uni. That is first year. I get into hiking. I get into trying to work out here and there. I get into jogging. That is something that I got into very early on. I get into dating as well. I'm a very traditional dater, or a traditional person when it comes to dating. Like, I just believe in, yes, like, I mean, I'm not very upfront when it comes to dating. Like, when in other areas of my life, like my education, my career, whatever, I'm very go getter, go, yes, this is what I want. I'm going to make the moves. When it comes to dating, I kind of like take a back seat and I let the other person steer the relationship forward. So I get into a relationship with this guy. The relationship is going, but now when I think back to it, if there's something I should have done is get to know myself more before getting into a relationship. But anyway, we get into a relationship and the relationship is going. So of course we go out, clubbing, dates, whatever. But it was a very strenuous. I think we dated for a while. I think after the first 12 months, it just became a very strenuous relationship.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. Ooh, that is only part 1 of Hekaya's story, and already like so many gems of wisdom she's dropped. Part 2 is going to be out next week, so make sure you subscribe wherever it is you're listening to this podcast on so you don't miss out on it. So much stood out from this part 1, but like the first thing is that quiet truth that family does not always equal emotional safety. Yeah, like facts. Sometimes the people that we're biologically connected to are not the people we feel most understood by. And I feel like that's actually more of the case, right? And sometimes with time, healing, and inner work on both ends, those relationships can soften and evolve, but many times they don't. And both these realities can exist without blame. It just is what it is, you know? Another thing that stood out for me and I kept thinking about while listening to Hekaya is just like her story reminds us that siblings do not grow up having the same childhood, like even when they grow up under the same roof. And one of the people who I watch and I listen to and I've read his books and I really resonate with is Dr. Gabor Mate. He often speaks about this, right? That children experience their parents differently based on timing, temperament, stress, expectations, emotional availability of the parents, birth order, family dynamics, and even what each child needs changes. Like it's different for you and your siblings, right? So when we talk about like sibling relationships, it makes sense that two people can walk away from the same home carrying completely different emotional imprints, right? Which then means it goes back to what I started off by saying, family does not always automatically equal emotional safety or automatically equal friendship, because you're still very different people, right? Still very different people. And if you find friendship within family or within your siblings, great. If you don't, hey, you know what I mean? Like these two things can coexist. And I think another important takeaway from Hekaya's story is like sometimes adulthood is not about becoming closer to family, but becoming clearer about who you are within them. So clarity can be an act of self-love, and boundaries can be an act of healing, and chosen family can just be as real and as sacred as those who you're biologically family with. Does that make sense? But I do want to hear from you. If part one of Hekaya's story stirred something in you around family expectations, sibling roles and relationships, or just that like grief of not being fully seen in your family, please, number one, know that you're not alone in that experience. And then number two, let me know in the comments. I love reading what you connected with in the various episodes. So wherever it is you're listening to this on, just drop a comment. Thank you so much for listening to this first episode of 2026 to the very end. I am so happy that you're part of our family, and I'm so excited for 2026. We have so much more in store for you, from our wellness talks, our group therapy spaces, events, our shows across our Legally Clueless African network, and just so much more. But as we wind up the episode, remember, I truly appreciate you, and I know that you have every single thing it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.